And Chris, question for you. So then you're left with this inert pile. You own it now, don't you?
Correct.
So what happens to it?
We will take ownership of those residues. They are largely calcium and iron bearing residue that is able to be either safely disposed of or reinserted back into the front end of the steel making process from whence it came.
Okay. So this really, I mean, you mentioned it there a second ago. This is, I'm trying to understand the green credentials here, because again, coming back to my point over earlier,
Yeah.
people tell us.
So I think you're operating up in Scandinavia, and so the environmental considerations. So we had the sledgehammer approach, and then we thought, well, that works, is attractive, will deliver what we want. But we are in a very pretty part of the world. We are adjacent to the ports and towns. These towns have grown up around the steel mills, and they've got ports there. And so we took care really to have a look at having the lowest environmental footprint. So whether that's from a CO2 point of view, using hydropower, the change in the medium that we dissolve the residue, the slag into, was really driven by the end products that come out the back end to make them. So you don't want to put in a process, so that the sledgehammer actually created a higher volume of waste than we processed to start off with, because you're changing it from a metallic form into an oxide form. Or indeed a sulfate form. So what we tried to make sure, we were conscious that we wanted to have a product that was inert, that we are recycling as much as we can, the least amount of materials that we bring into the site and take out of the site, the better. Green power, in time we will make, known a few more of the subtle other benefits that this process has, but we're not looking at discharging. We have a negative water balance, i.e. we are not discharging any liquid tailings into the environment that needs storage or subsequent treatment. And likewise with noxious gas or airborne emissions, that sort of stuff. So we've truly put our minds around this the sustainable future bit.
Yeah, okay. I mean, thanks for that. And I mean, it's kind of worth bearing in mind that's got to be a big part of your message here, because you're talking about with other, you talk about the battery recycling project that you've got going on here, and this project ESG. You've really truly got to deliver that. So I'd be interested in learning more about how you're going about that as and when you're able to release that information.
Yeah, sure. I mean, rather than just saying we're embracing the ESG reporting or whatever, I mean, we're actually walking the talk. We are changing our business, changing we've pivoted away from the more carbon intensive upstream element of the supply chain to recycling before, and to get the recycling right before we ultimately develop any more upstream or downstream resources. It's a model we actually took off Johnson Matthey. They don't enter into a new commodity unless they can actually recycle that product. If you can do that, then you can work as far upstream as you like.
That's interesting. We've had a lot of requests to talk to a bit more corporate, socially responsible companies. So we've talked to a lot of tailings companies. We were fascinated by your sort of segue from mining into this space and seeing if it can be delivered. We've spoken with the World Gold Council about what their expectations for companies are in terms of automated battery vehicles within mining, etc. So this is fascinating. And do you think it makes economic sense to do this, or is this just about being socially responsible?
That is, obviously we are a listed company. We are here for our shareholders' benefit. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. certainly that we are targeting, like I say, the thematics, the commodities, and then we are picking our position in those supply chains a little smarter than once we would have, where we just would have bashed on with a more capital intense, lower margin, higher risk upstream mining operation, because, you know, traditionally Australia's been a bit of a quarry for the world's building blocks for the modern industrial world.
Yeah, and we can't finish a conversation without talking about COVID-19. Obviously, you guys are working at home at the moment, but you do have guys in the lab. I understand it from Darren, still beavering away. Is that impacting your ability to get this agreement over the line sooner?
Look, I would have actually said it may have been the straw that got it over the line. That, you know, we had given them this contract there that, you know, we've got an exclusivity period. We've paid for that exclusivity period, securing 27 months to get to an FID to monetize this for them. They've been sitting there stockpiling this for 30 years. So we're actually going to turn it into money for them. In terms of the COVID impact on us, I mean, we sold out of our upstream operation. We've got a lot of cash. We've been doing quite a lot of metallurgical test work across our core projects. They're now moving into the engineering stages. We've finished a lot of exploration at Christmas. We've now been compiling the results, planning our next moves for those projects. So, I mean, we're not wasting the opportunity. And look, you know, we're a very strong company in terms of our balance sheet, our human and our financial resources generally, from the board all the way down to the receptionist. And so we will pretty much move seamlessly through the evaluation stages. You know, I understand in Australia they're doing a pretty good job of getting on top of this early. I mean, it should come as no surprise. We are the most isolated country in the world with the lowest population density. So I wouldn't put that down to, I mean, it's some good moves from the government, but it should be taken as no way to try to say, we're not boasting about that. It's more a geographical anomaly. So we can, and the mining industry here is an essential services, and the government, you know, is allowing those to operate because ordinarily we have probably the highest operating safety and health systems in the world. And so the addition of pre-testing, constant testing, social isolation, or self-isolation and social distancing, when you're flying in and flying out of a remote work site, you're almost doing that anyway. So for us, we're fortunate that I can see no material disruption. Look, some of the timelines and some of the milestones might move around a little bit. Certainly there could be disruptions in terms of, you know, the global macro basis, but to get to FIDs, we are in, you know, we have multiple years of surplus cash flow. In fact, as a sign of our strength, we accelerated the consideration of a dividend that we've done annually for the last 4 years. We brought it forward by a month because we are in such good financial position. We've got more than $80 million in available cash after the dividend. We have no debt. And so we can execute our plans to take all 4 projects through to final investment decisions without having any regard to our underlying balance sheet. So look, it's not lost on us. We are fortunate, and for everyone, you know, who's not so fortunate, you know, we do understand and feel for it.